Hey there. So today I interview my friend and business partner, Dr. Charles Livingston. He's been an owner building three eight-figure businesses, starting with first info products, then a supplement company, and now the coffee company that we own together, Life Boost Coffee. Charles is the architect behind our back-end sales and customer service processes that have allowed us to scale from around 850 units sold per month when we started working together back in January of 2019 to over 30,000 units a month in that first year to over 150,000 units a month now without missing a beat in terms of customer service, brand quality. It's an amazing skill. So here's how he's done it. All right. So the way that we met is you were at our event.
Yep.
That would have been in what, like 2014 or something?
Yeah, probably 13 or 14 maybe.
Yeah. And so I was familiar with you because you had fat loss factor, which I kind of want to dig into. And at the time, I think before then, actually, a few years, it would have been like 3 or 4 years before then, I was trying to figure out how to create like an info product that actually like made money. That was one of like the 20 businesses that I tried to build in the first couple years. And so somehow found out about ClickBank, I think through like Ryan Dice and digital market and all that kind of stuff. And then so started digging into there. You had, I think, the number one or one of the top products at the time on there. And so I was like trying to reverse engineer your funnel. I created some product called like the Source Diet, which, I didn't know anything about that stuff. Like me and Jason, I think, tried to do it together. It did not work at all. I was kind of using my dad as the expert, but you all were crushing it at the time. What was Fat Loss Factor?
So Fat Loss Factor was actually it was a rebrand of an older weight loss program I developed called Green Life Weight Loss, which I actually named my business after. That stuck with me even after I was doing non-weight loss stuff. So it's kind of weird, but um, yeah. And it was based on the fact that so the whole thing we were trying to find a hook, an angle for weight loss, right? And after doing a bunch of research and just, I've already had, hundreds or thousands of hours of just research behind me in nutrition and weight loss and exercise and stuff. And we came up with the liver. So your liver is one of your primary metabolic organs because of how it processes through carbs and proteins and fats. So we made the whole a book geared towards liver health. For weight loss. And the whole Fat Loss Factor was all about like ways to, you know, help improve your liver health. And by doing that, inherently it's just going to, or indirectly, it's going to boost your metabolism.
What was the diet? Like what were like the highlights?
Oh, yeah. So it was like you started doing, I don't know if you remember the Master Cleanse back in the day, which
Yeah,
was,
sort of.
I can't even remember it. It was like you do a saltwater flush and then the spicy lemonade. It was like lemon and maple syrup and cayenne pepper, and you drank that, for like three. I think it was a 3 day cleanse. So you did that for 3 days, and right after that, you rolled into a basically a vegan, not today's vegan diet where it's all full of processed foods, but an actual like no processed food, just straight vegetable diet for like 2 weeks.
Hmm.
And after that, you started introducing meat back in, and because you want to create it for a lifestyle. Like the whole goal was, hit the body hard early with some things it has to adapt to and just purge it of toxins. And then after that, roll into something that's sustainable to where you could eat your favorite foods like 20% of the time, but 80% of the time you had a nice, healthy diet that you could follow.
You
So
think it
that
worked?
factor. Yeah, for sure.
Y'all got lots of like unsolicited kind of testimonials and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then y'all, so it was mainly like an ebook. Did it include like video training and stuff, or was it mainly just the ebook?
The video training was an upsell. It was, and we just went through some exercises and just more in depth about, the diet and just video instructions of like putting together the master cleanse and putting together the raw food diet and like all that. Like the product came, that was the upsell. The product came with like all the grocery lists and foods that you should be eating and foods you shouldn't be eating, that type of thing.
And you sold it for what, like $40? The ebook?
It started at, I think it was 67 at first, then we ended up moving it down to 47.
And then at the time, I think I can't remember if it was per year or total sales. You did like 10 million or something, something crazy. Like what were like the total sales you sold of that ebook?
Yeah,
Your like guess.
once it took us a year or so to get it going. We had to really split test the sales letter. And this is when the Doodle video sales letters first came out, right?
Yeah.
And like everybody was trying to do them, and we were just testing like crazy, and that was really hard to like split test. So once we got it dialed in, it just went nuts, and it just the way ClickBank works is once it gets traction, other affiliates hear about it and they start promoting it, and so we just had this army of affiliates, and it just shot it right to the top. And then there was like think two or three other uh, weight loss offers at the top, and so we're competing with them. And eventually, we passed everybody. We were able to hold the number one spot for a couple of years.
How much of it you think you sold? Like dollar amount?
Oh man, I don't probably like I don't like between 15 and 18 million, I'd imagine.
That's
Something
so
like that.
crazy. $15 million of an ebook.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I mean, those like they're the guys at the top. I probably are doing 50 to 100 million, but they're also not ebooks or they're supplements.
Yeah, yeah. I just checked them out today because I was kind of curious because I knew we were going to be doing this, and I was like, "What is ClickBank doing today?" And I know we had kind of talked about it. I'd poked around, but I just checked it out today, and like all the top products they're pushing are physical products. And then weight loss, supplements are a big category. There's like weight loss supplements. There's like the Java burn people, and then there was like some random uh, I think gut related supplements. There's like a probiotic and stuff like that. But then they also had physical products. I didn't dig into it, but like survival and that kind of thing. Whereas like back in the day, it was all ebooks, like muscle building, weight loss, fitness. Like I don't really know what else, but now it's like all physical stuff. I guess you can't really get away selling an ebook for $70 now.
No, no, Kindle kind of destroyed that, right?
Yeah. Wait, what are you saying? What destroyed it? Kindle?
Yeah.
Oh
So
yeah.
back in the day, ClickBank was the premier platform for ebooks.
Yeah.
And then once Kindle came in, and all the marketers jumped on board, it really diminished what ClickBank could do. Because I mean, the books were a third of the price, right?
Hmm.
And
That's interesting. I never thought about Kindle being the thing that kind of made that change.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there were other spin-offs like software projects, which I think is now called Buy Goods, maybe.
Hmm.
And there's a couple other maybe Digistore, I think, some
Yeah.
other spin-off platforms that I think their sale was, or their hook was, they're a little more liberal than um, ClickBank was with allowing claims and things like that.
Yeah. And then so this fat loss factor, or I guess like the green life weight loss, like because you went to school and became, licensed chiropractor, and then at some point you're kind of like, what the hell am I doing? I'm working all these hours. And my friend Brad that you've known that,
Yeah.
I loosely know, but he was sitting here, building these businesses, making money, doing online marketing stuff. And you're like, that sounds a lot better than, doing this kind of seeing patients all day and not making a lot of money. So you kind of started working for him at like the ground level, doing customer service, that kind of thing. But was this like the first business you did together, or was it something else?
No, that was yeah. Fat Loss Factor was the first business that we did together, and how it went down was just you know is one of those things where it's like, what did I want to do with my life? I did not want to. I loved being a chiropractor. I loved adjusting. I loved seeing patients. Absolutely hated the politics of medicine. It was terrible.
What do you
Uh,
mean?
the politics,
Hmm.
basically, when you're under when you deal with insurance and things like that, they are the ones who dictate the care
Hmm.
that you can give patients versus
Yeah.
you. Um, and there's this whole mess of trying to get paid and them not wanting to. I mean, their business model is to like say, obviously make money. Your business model is to make money, and if they
Hmm.
have control over making money, it's going to be in their favor, right? So trying to get paid just kept getting harder and harder, and they would pay you less and less
Hmm.
for what you were doing, and it just made practice not that fun.
Yeah.
And it really kind of things that people needed to have in practice. They weren't um, like a lot of the times insurance wouldn't pay for because whatever reasons they had. Uh,
Hmm.
I did not like an insurance company dictating the care that I could provide to my patients. So that and just like I wanted to travel, I wanted to be able to work anywhere in the world, and the best thing that that was suitable for that lifestyle was getting online, right? And
Yeah.
so just talking with Brad, he's like, "Yeah, man, come with me. I'll teach you the ropes. More money, less stress." But I had to start in customer service, so in a software company, so which I literally knew nothing about.
Yeah.
So I came from 100% science background. I had like maybe one business class in chiropractic school,
Hmm.
and so I knew nothing. So I literally had to start from ground zero again and just learn. So everything I know about business and marketing was self taught.
Yeah.
Just
I mean, I guess you kind of like one of the people that I know that probably devours business books just as much as anybody else.
yeah, I love it, man.
Yeah.
Learning, anywhere, any course I could get my hands on at the time, any book,
Including
whatever.
including our course that you bought, I think.
Man, that was like I was so mad because you kept it was like every week I'd have to wait till the next section, and it's gonna take forever to get through this.
Yeah. And then so at some point, I guess, when did you decide to build Perfect Origins, which is, your supplement business that you had? I don't even think you still have it anymore, but when did you decide to build that supplement business?
Yeah. So what happened was Brad and I went to a traffic diversion summit,
Hmm.
and while we were there, a buddy of mine, Craig Ballantyne, we had a chat with him and his business partner Matt Smith at the time, and they sat us down. They're like, "Look, you do not have a business. You have an
Right.
offer. Somebody's going to come and build a better mousetrap, and they're going to
Yeah.
overtake you. What are you going to do?" And that was one of those like holy crap moments. Like,
Yeah.
you're right. We do only have one offer. We're not even a real business. So then
Mhm.
Brad and I got together and started talking, and that's how Perfect Origins came out. We were like, you know what? Let's create a supplement company and take our hook about liver health and create a supplement for it.
Yeah.
So that's how Perfect Origin started. And then actually at your event, we met Goher because he was one of your speakers.
Oh,
And
that's cool. I didn't know that's how you met him.
yeah, yeah, it was at your VIP dinner thing.
Yeah.
And because I was sitting next to you and him,
Mhm.
you were on one side, he was on the other.
Yeah.
And so we started chatting and stuff, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll take a swing at it." And he tested the offer that Brad and I had created. And he was like, "You guys have no idea what you have here." He's
Mm.
like, "I want in." So we had some talks afterwards and made him a partner, and that's how it started. And within, let me see, that was shoot, man, that was like 2012, 13, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Shortly after we had that, we went to your event, your
And
first amazing event, and then from there, within a year, we had gotten it to seven figures, and then the following year, we got it to eight figures.
yeah, so y'all got that business to like 10 million plus a year. So you went from like selling an info product where, Craig Ballantyne, who's been in the market for a long time, is kind of like, hey, you just have an offer. And so you go build a supplement company, you build a good offer in the supplement company, it gets up to 10 million plus a year, but then it kind of like falls apart for one reason or another, stops converting or got fatigued or something, and you couldn't really like dig out of that.
Yeah, yeah. It was one of those where, there's three of us, basically three cooks in the kitchen, right?
Yeah.
So we all had different ideas, all had different aspects of business. Typical partner stuff. If you're not communicating enough, then and it just didn't end up working out. Brad wanted to get out and focus more on software, which is his primary thing. So
Yeah.
we bought him out, and then Goer and I ran it. And just at that time, everything was changing online, uh, and the offer just wasn't converting like it used to. And then I mean, we had other products and stuff, and we kept it going. And end up selling it to Goer, and I think to this day it's still at seven figures. So he's kept it going.
Yeah. So then that kind of leads us to like our current business. And so you went from like an offer in the info product space, kind of like an offer in the supplement space, but then now, I mean, we have very much like a real business that you run. Which a lot of people know that are kind of listening to this, but Life Boost, Inc. 500 3 times in a row, incredible growth, great business. We both love the product, the coffee. With that company, kind of, how did you create the business in the very beginning? Like, how did you figure out how to source the coffee, brand it? Because that's totally different than supplements, totally different than info products. It's a food product, which has a whole different bunch of hoops most people don't want to jump through. Like, what was the very first way you were able to sell like the first bag?
Yeah. So, just from my background of affiliate marketing and ClickBank, and I made a lot of friends. Helped a lot of people out. They've helped us out. So, this offer literally fell in my lap. They were taking the supplements, and the guy reached out to me and was like, "We want to put the supplement in the coffee," which is a small farm in Nicaragua. And I was like, this liver herbs, it'd be super bitter. It would not taste good at all. It's like, you don't want
Yeah,
to do that. It's like, but I'm really getting interested in coffee. This is when bulletproof coffee was a craze, where people putting butter in their coffee. And I
yeah.
started to do that.
You didn't drink coffee, but when did you start drinking coffee?
I didn't start drinking coffee till probably early 30s, but this was foo Starbucks full of sugar coffee,
Yeah.
where you would
So this
drink
is
it.
like only like a few years later when you started
Yeah.
doing this.
Yeah. So I
Okay.
was drinking those, and then Bulletproof came out. I started to get educated on coffee, and realized that, up until that point, people were saying coffee was not healthy.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, all the research comes out and is like, coffee is really healthy. It's actually the number one antioxidant in the United States.
Hmm.
Good or bad, I don't know if that means people aren't getting enough vegetables or whatever. But it was the primary source of antioxidants. And, just doing the research and learning from it, I was like, man, there's not really, a lot of like healthy coffee options out there. At that time, like organic coffee, a lot of times didn't taste as good as conventional coffee. Most coffee was blended, meaning they took inferior beans and would mix it with good beans in order for margin control. A lot of it would be.
Yeah. Have you have
Um,
you have you heard of sweeps?
no.
This guy that I talked to, that like he went real deep down the rabbit hole with like how to roast coffee, specialty coffee. He owns some coffee shops in New York City and stuff. He says there's literally a kind of coffee called sweeps, which is like they roast coffee, like crap falls off on the floor, they sweep it up, and then they literally resell that coffee. Like, it seems crazy, but he seems to know a lot about this stuff, and I think he's correct. But I mean, that's like perfect example of why, blended is like a little scary.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, it doesn't surprise me. So for me, my whole thing is like, if I'm going to be drinking this, because I was starting to drink it every day. I'm like, if I'm drinking this every single day,
Yeah.
one has to be, bulletproof, brought light to mycotoxins, which is mold
Hmm.
coffee, whether it's organic or not organic, depending on the conditions of how the coffee's grown and where it's stored and transported and blah blah blah. You can get mold in coffee, so I was very conscious of that. And I didn't want any type. Coffee is the third most drank beverage in the world, right? So, which means it's a cash crop, which means that it's highly sprayed with pesticide.
Hmm.
And since a lot of this is overseas, their regulations are different than in the US. And being not a food product, but more of a beverage, I believe, it's even more loose, right? So it becomes highly important to make sure that, like, for me anyway, that I was drinking the cleanest source I could find. And so this is kind of what led me down the path of, finding that and creating that. And that was an iteration over time. I mean, when Life Boost started, it was like, this was great coffee. It hit all the criteria I was looking for: certified organic, single origin. Um, and it was delicious. It was so good. So I talked with one of the owners of the farms there and created, they gave me the supply. And so I just created a business around it. and it was literally how we started was just a sales page, and I just ran it like an affiliate offer. And
And
so I
they were doing the fulfillment from the beginning.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And so you started just selling it on Shopify, right? Like that was from day one.
yeah, yeah. At that time, like Shopify was the easiest way to create a store.
Hmm.
That's how we started. And actually, Ezra helped me with that one. He was a partner for a while, Ezra Firestone.
Yeah, forget that.
Yeah, yeah. And then he got super busy and he was like, all right, man, I can't do it. I was like, okay. I
Yeah.
understand. He was running like four other e-commerce businesses at the time. Um,
So where did the initial sales come? Because like when you and I partnered up, it was January, basically January of 2019, and the business was a lot smaller, but it was still doing like 200 grand a year in sales. Like where did those sales come from?
affiliates. I had a small group of affiliates who were just running offers monthly. And then we had a subscription model on the back end,
Yeah.
and we would just retain customers. And so that just kept going.
And were those affiliates from Fat Loss Factor or just people you knew?
Yeah, it started with people I met through Fat Loss Factor and Perfect Origins. And I
Yeah.
would be like, hey, test this out. It's different because my whole thing when looking at it was like, I need something that not everybody else has at that,
Hmm.
right? And healthy coffee was something that, everybody was at this time getting into supplements and protein powders and things like that. So I was like, well, I'm going to go coffee.
Yeah.
Just different, right? And
Yeah.
it,
And the affiliate offer from the beginning was $30 per sale.
yeah.
How'd you choose that dollar amount?
Just ran some numbers, figuring out, if I can. My whole goal is to break even on the customer, right? So if I can give them a good CPA, then and it didn't like I think that time the average order value was like $60. I was
Yeah.
like, all right, that'll cover the cost of goods and shipping and all that stuff, uh, and I'll give the any profit over to the affiliate, and then they can just grow and scale, and then we can work on upsells and back end sales after that to increase profit margin.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So then you and I partnered up January of 2019, basically grew the business. My job was kind of figure out the sales funnel, run the Facebook ads initially, find someone to take those over and kind of scale it up from there, which we were able to do. One of the crazy parts, I mean, it was awesome we were able to grow the sales, but I mean, I just like calculated that first month, January, we would have done like 17 grand in sales in January of 2019, which if you say like an average of like 20 bucks a bag, kind of, after subscription discounts, all that kind of stuff, that's basically like 850 bags sold that month. Fast forward like 12 months, like I think we were around 12 or 13 months, around like 650 grand a month in sales. At that, around the same price per bag or so, that's 32,000 bags a month. From 850 bags a month to 32,000 bags a month in 1 year. The part that I still like don't know how you did was like, how did you keep the wheels from like falling off in that time period?
So this was from a lot of training from Fat Loss Factor and Perfect Origins. Just a lot of mistakes I made then because for both of those, I was in charge of more of the back end and operations. And so just learning from mistakes I made in the past of what not to do. Um, and
Like what were some of those things? Like what were some of the mistakes you had at Fat Loss Factor? Because I mean, y'all had, I mean, I guess in almost every business you've been involved in, you've had this kind of pretty rapid growth. Like most businesses don't go from like nothing to like 10 million plus a year in like a couple of years. Like that's not usually normal, but you've kind of been involved in that in like three businesses in a row. So like what were the some of the big things that like didn't go right at Fat Loss Factor that you're like, okay, I don't want to repeat that at
oh,
Life
man,
Boost?
customer service was a nightmare in Fat Loss Factor. Oh, it was the worst. It was just one of those things where uh, we didn't have enough people doing it, and we had so many tickets coming in that it would take forever for people to get answered. The answers weren't that great because the quality control of the answers, because at this time it was just Brad and I, and then we hired I think one older lady who was answering these tickets, and maybe one other person, and there were so many tickets, and so just to get through them, the answers weren't the greatest. Uh, and yeah, I mean, it was just the feedback from the customers and how unhappy they were with the answer, or because I mean, with some of the stuff, like it's technical, right? So you need
Mhm.
to have good answers, and
Like diet or health related questions?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
you'd have to answer it in such a way to where you weren't giving medical advice. So just trying to navigate all that as well.
Yeah.
Um, so it just really bottlenecked customer service. So I was, that was one of the biggest things, was just making sure that customers were taken care of.
But how'd you fix that at Life Boost?
How we,
'Cause I mean, Life Boost, it's a whole different animal. Like you're
yeah,
selling physical products, so then there's 8 million. Like shipping is probably the main thing people have. Where's my order? But
yeah.
what did you do differently?
So with that, we just hired more customer service people from the beginning. Making sure that the wait time in between answers and responses was much faster. I think we said 24 hours or less, you'll get a response from us. So we
Hmm.
just put, hard stops and be like, anything above this is unacceptable. It needs to be this or below.
Hmm.
And then once we put a manager in place, that just got even tighter. Like she really dialed in and, trained, worked like the monthly trainings and weekly trainings with the customer service people. And as we grew, she was hiring underneath. Um, and I mean, that's the thing. Like you just got to be aware of what's coming in. And the other thing I also did, which I didn't do for Fat Loss Factor, was I have all tickets forwarded into my personal Gmail account
Hmm.
just so I can like see it on a daily basis,
Yeah.
uh, and just look for that pattern of what's coming down the pipeline. What are people complaining about? How, so it's always top of mind. And so the biggest change from of what I learned from like those businesses versus Life Boost is just internally you take care of your customer.
Yeah.
So that's really the biggest change, I would say. And then just adding more systems and processes in to where you have SOPs in place and quality assurance in place. That was one thing we did with Perfect Origins that we didn't have in Fat Loss Factors. We started adding QA, people QAing the website,
Hmm.
the sales page, people QAing, the answers, all that. So that's very important to
Yeah.
have.
So when I would go in there and break something,
Yes,
people would freak out before the customers did.
it would be cut.
um, Yeah, that's interesting. So it's kind of I mean, part of it was just making the focus of like, hey, like bad customer service is like not acceptable at this business, which is a shift. Another part is like you getting that data, which is kind of like Jeff Bezos, for I don't know if
Yeah,
it's still the case, he's not really CEO anymore, but you could email Jeff or Jeff B or whatever at Amazon.com and he would see some of those emails. Like maybe not everyone, but he would see some of those. Like, and he runs, one of the biggest companies on the planet. But it's
yeah,
like having that kind of direct access because you realize that even if you don't see everything, like if you see one issue, depending on the size of the company, there's probably like 10 or 100x of those things happening. So it's kind of like if you see one issue, like that's probably a problem for a hell of a lot more people. So then like you getting that data to kind of like spot check is good. And then also you've had a really good manager, which not everyone may be able to find, but still having somebody who like that is his or her role. How did you find Michelle, who's kind of the person who does a lot more now, but initially was mainly managing customer service? How did you find her? She was like working at a restaurant or something, or
yeah. You know what? And she was actually a referral. So I think when I look back at like hires, when we were hiring for Perfect Origins, Whitney, I hired her, and she was a restaurant manager at PF Chang's and was
Hmm.
looking for a career change.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, like restaurant managers, they are used to absolute chaos and they work in just super stressful situations. So they're able to handle stress easily, and able to function very well under a lot of stress. So, we hired her for Perfect Origins and she did amazing. Um, at the time, I think she was the customer service manager. And then we ended up moving her to office manager. And she referred her best friend, who was Michelle.
Hmm.
And Michelle was actually the customer service manager at, or no, or I mean, the manager at Steak and Shake.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, which is, I don't. maybe even more chaotic than
Mhm.
PF Chang's.
Yeah.
And like they were just so fast at getting stuff done and making decisions. And they had that, the attitude of you just get things done no matter what. And their attitude was amazing. And they were just, like I said, they would get things done. They were systematized. And I'm personally not that organized. And when running Perfect Origins, those two were the ones who organized me.
Hmm.
And and the whole thing is like when you're looking at business is one, you need to know what your personal strength is.
Yeah.
That is not my personal strength. I
Hmm.
learned operations. I'm decent at operations, but it's not my strength. And I knew it well enough to understand how to delegate things and how to find the right people whose personality was like their strength was different than mine. They were more organized and they
Hmm.
were uh, finishers. And like I'm good at like creating an idea and putting it out there, but you need somebody behind you that if you don't have the skill set of taking something to the finish or executing on it quickly, it's not going to help you to come up with the idea.
Yeah.
So that was kind of one of the things I was looking for. And
Yeah.
they,
I find both of them, they don't get too stressed very often unless I call them out of the blue because nobody likes me calling their cell phone. Most of the time is nothing bad, despite what they say. But they don't really get stressed too often. And then they also have like a sense of urgency,
yeah,
which is not like, some people, I don't know, they just kind of like you tell them something and then they kind of coast or they don't think it's that important or like a problem happens. They're like, I'll get to it tomorrow. But they don't really act like that. And so maybe that is kind of like a, I don't know, personality thing or, self-selection from the restaurant industry. Cause I mean,
yeah,
I was listening to some audio stuff from Brene Brown actually. And I don't know I don't know if these are restaurants anywhere else, but in Texas, there's like this Papa's sort of chain. They own these massive kind of nice restaurants, a little bit, most of them I think are a little bit higher end. And she still talks about working there in college for 4 years and how stressful it was and how intense and like they'd have to take a break in the middle of the day because they were just like so like overblown with stress. So maybe that is kind of a good recruiting trick if you can look for people like that.
I mean, I would definitely hire restaurant managers again because, like, so far we've been 2 for 2.
Yeah.
uh, but I mean, like people that you really like how they work in the personality type, a lot of times will hang out with people similar to them, right?
Hmm.
So I knew that when Whitney made that referral, that it was going to be a good referral. And as soon as she got into Perfect Origins, she was a rock star.
Yeah.
And both of those two like were pivotal in that business for
Hmm.
sure.
So like a few of the tactics that like I've had basically zero involvement with at Life Boost, like one is the Facebook group. So you
Mhm.
created at some point, I don't remember where you got the idea from, but like you created a Facebook group for our customers. And that I think has been a year now, 2 years, more than a year. I don't really know.
Oh man,
At least a year, I would say.
yeah, at least a year, probably a year and a half to 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what was the original idea? And do you think it's kind of like lived up to that purpose and kind of related? Like, would you recommend other people with other e commerce businesses do the same thing?
Yeah, for sure. You want to build around a community.
Yeah.
So, like when you bring people into your business, you want a way to communicate with them directly. And my whole thing is like coffee is community, right? That's one of the major reasons, connection and community. We talk about that. It's one of our 4 core pillars
Hmm.
that Life Boost stands for. Is connection is I think the third one. And so like we needed a way for them to connect. And back in the day, it was forums, but like everybody's on Facebook, right? So that's where we created the community. Um, and it started, and it's I mean it's just full of memes and people asking questions. Uh, what like for instance, like what type of French press should I buy? And
Hmm.
then even I'll go in there, and if I see the question, I'll just go to Amazon and find the French press that I use, and I'll link it in there for them. And it's just a way for them to get quick access to answers. Everybody in the community will answer. We have a lot of our customer service people in there, as well as our managers, and we have an entire social media team. that runs it. Uh, but I mean, any business that like caters itself to a community, you should definitely create that for them.
Because at one point you were putting some videos in there, right? I can't remember if any of them were live, but you did some videos in there. Like, are you still doing that?
Yeah, I'll be doing more of it again. It just depends. Like, it's one of those. It's like I don't want to be the face of the business.
Why not?
Because I don't want that much reliance on me. I want to be able to step away and have the
Yeah.
business function on its own without me. And if
Yeah.
I'm the one that everybody relies on, it one once you're a CEO and you have like a million things to make decisions on,
Yeah.
like your time is like super valuable, right?
Hmm.
So I love interacting with people. I like meeting people in the community, but at the same time, I've also got to be looking for the overall health of the business as well.
Yeah.
So I have some really good people in there who do that, and then I'll come in and just like introduce products or give like last year we did a state of life boost and just kind of talked about what we were planning to do for the year and things
Hmm.
like that. And I enjoy that, and we'll do more of that. We're just setting it up now because I do think it's important for the founder to be involved.
Hmm.
uh, I don't think they should be the face of the business.
That's interesting because I know we had some of these conversations at some point. I thought it was mainly because you thought the business wouldn't be worth as much with your name and face on it. Which to me, it's like I kind of question that now because, like, I mean, look at like the Kardashian businesses, like the Ryan Reynolds thing. They just sold their Mint Mobile for like 1.3 billion or something like that, and it's like I don't know if that's so much true anymore. I think you can almost argue the opposite. But however, if it's like you're the guy who's like, okay, I don't mind putting my face on this thing. I don't think it's going to devalue the business. But so like now I'm the guy who's posting videos in the Facebook group. Like now I'm the guy who's like writing personal emails because I don't want somebody else writing under my name. But it's like, it's not so much that it's like devaluing the business, but then all of a sudden, like you're the person who people have to rely on for those things because like they don't have to come up with another solution. So like because you're already kind of filling those roles versus like I'm not going to do that, and so you got to find some other way to do this, or we just don't do it.
Yeah, and I still believe that too. The other thing is, if I were Ryan Reynolds or Kim Kardashian, I had that much popularity and status,
Yeah.
then yeah, you would definitely use that. But like, I don't. I'm a ghost on a lot of social media.
Yeah.
So like, I'm I guess a lurker. I'll comment on different people's if I'm like, I mean, I'm on there. I just don't post a lot.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
To me, it's like one more thing I have to do. I'm like,
Yeah. And then one of the skills you built up, I don't remember which business. I don't know if it was Fat Loss Factor or Perfect Origins, was on the email side. You used to be, one of the top guys when it came to email. You were like friends with, studying under the people that were probably like the top people in an email. So you're always on top of that stuff. I think you've pulled away from that like a little bit. Like what do you think is the state of email, if you will, in like 2023 and beyond? Like how is it different now than before? Do you think it's as valuable for revenue, like that sort of thing?
oh yeah, I think it's definitely one of the top keys. Email, text has definitely come to the top. You should
Hmm.
like. I don't know why I just fell in love with email early. In Fat Loss Factor days, I just wrote so many emails. I got decent at it.
Yeah.
And then it just carried through Perfect Origins and even Life Boost. I still write, a lot of the emails. Now we're doing more e-commerce style emails with the graphics and stuff and testing against, some of the emails that I've written
Like some of the fancy design sort of e-commerce
yeah.
template emails that I've always like hated. They look pretty, but I guess you're trying to prove out if they work just as well or not.
Yeah, yeah. And it's still honestly still up in the air.
Yeah. Hmm.
Like I'm not convinced that, e-commerce is better, and I'm not convinced that just writing is better because like it's going both ways. I think that there's definitely a hybrid that
I
would
mean,
work.
you almost never mail from your personal name, right, to the Life Boost customers.
Yeah, I keep it from the business.
So I feel like that would be the difference. Is like if you were willing to say this is from Dr. Charles, and I wanted to feel like a natural Gmail email, that would be like one version versus like this is from Life Boost Coffee and it's like a branded sort of like fancy looking like template email. But I guess if it's kind of like if it's a from Life Boost Coffee, but it looks like a Gmail email, that's like a little bit different
Yeah.
than it just feeling like a personal thing.
Yeah, that's something yeah, we definitely should test. Honestly, is I'm not opposed to doing that, so we'll put that on the testing block and see how that works.
Yeah. I mean, knowing everything you know now, like how often do you think, and say an e-commerce business is doing $1 million a year in sales, how often do you think they should be emailing their customers?
And that depends on the type of product they have, right? And how many products they have. Like for us, we have, I don't know, what, 40 something different SKUs of products. So
I mean,
we,
what if you were Brewmate? Like we're both familiar with Brewmate. If anybody's not, they create like these really cool kind of design drinkware, tumblers, mugs, like all that kind of stuff. Like, what if you were them?
they could literally mail every day because they have something, they have so many different things, right? And then I would segment it like when we mail, we don't hit the entire list all the time. We'll
Hmm.
segment it down to, sometimes we'll pull out the decaf people or pull out the pods people, or you know, instead of mailing the whole list, we'll only do like the most engaged for the past 10 weeks or something.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it just depends on what you have to offer, and like if it's like a one-off product and you don't have anything else, then you probably shouldn't be mailing your customers
Hmm.
if you don't have anything to sell them all the time.
Yeah.
But if
Do
you
you,
have a lot of things to sell, then yeah.
do you think it makes sense for an e-commerce business, say like Brewmate, to send people pure content?
Yeah. I mean, I think that definitely helped. I think Brewmate is kind of, they sell drink stuff, but I mean, if you look behind why they're selling it, it's, for people who are going to parties and going outdoors and doing different things that need something to keep their drink cold, right? So
Yeah.
there's 1,000 different pieces of content they could do.
Recipes and that
Yeah,
kind of thing.
it gives people. I mean, when I think about how I, look at newsletters and stuff and content for like from companies like that, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. And so, like, then if I'm using a product and they given, like, for example, like the X3 bar, I really enjoy that and have
Yeah.
followed Dr. Jackwish and like a lot of his stuff, and his emails are good. They come through and they have some good ideas of how to use or correct my form on how I'm using the product. I think that's super helpful, right? Just like Brewmate, if they were teaching you, a way that will keep your drink 20% cooler just by this one simple thing, I'd like to know that, right?
Yeah. How does the X3 bar guy break up between like just teaching you stuff versus like selling new bands, new other stuff that he has going on?
A lot of times it'll be just like a small piece of content, like if you look, he'll do like social posts and he'll have emails, but it'll be like, they'll give a piece of content saying, hey, this is why, variable resistance training is superior to weightlifting. And
Yeah.
then he'll be like, this research article from 2021 says this. And at the bottom, it would just have an offer for maybe one of his $99 orange band, which is like the most heavy, extreme. It looks like the thickness of a tire. It's so thick. Um, but he would have that at the bottom of it, and then you
Yeah.
could buy it, or like it would be a link to other things. So it's like there's a direct selling, and then there's like an indirect way to sell, right?
Hmm.
And just a piece of content with a link at the bottom to something works good too.
Yeah.
So with like Life Boost, like we'll do some direct sales, but we'll also do indirect sales. Like we'll do newsletters, and we'll put like a banner in the middle of the newsletter for a medium roast coffee or something,
Yeah.
right? But with email marketing, it's as much about variety as
Hmm.
it is about the content.
Yeah.
Like people, you don't want people to get banner blindness, right? Where they see something so much they just kind of glaze over it. So you always want to keep them guessing and keep new and interesting. So that's kind of how I've approached any type of email marketing.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So I know you got to get back to actually running the business rather than chit chatting with me on video. So two quick questions. So
Sure.
Charles, from what I know, I've only known you since you were probably I don't know, I guess like, what are you, like 40 now? 41, 42, something like
Yeah,
that?
you can keep going lower. No, I'm 44.
44? Yeah. Don't look like it. But so maybe I've probably known you, I don't know, 7, 8 years, something like that. And so from what I hear, you've been Jack since you were like 15. Very into health and fitness. Charles is my go to source for diet and fitness advice. What do you think is the best diet today?
Oh man, that's a good question. And it depends on what your goal is for diet.
Hmm.
Like
All right, two questions. One, if you want to build muscle. Two, if you want to lose weight.
lose weight, I honestly think the best diet is carnivore.
Hmm.
Like I've never seen anything like create like quicker weight loss results in people going straight carnivore.
Yeah, which is funny because now that I know your fat loss factor had was like vegetarian, clean vegetarian, but
Yeah,
still.
the whole goal of that was, I mean, you know better, you do better, right? And at that time, like the whole goal was just to eliminate processed foods from people,
Yeah.
um, and yeah, and so that we'd only do it for a couple weeks. So it was infuse the body with nutrition and fiber, and to get away from processed foods. Uh,
Hmm.
that seemed to work well. Now, just from what the research studies show, it's protein being the most thermogenic of all of the between protein, fat, and carbs, and that's what builds muscle, right? So working out, like doing some type of resistance training and carnivore diet, I think is the fastest way to lose weight.
What about build muscle?
To build muscle, you need carbs, you need calories.
Yeah.
So like I tore my bicep, so I've been on more of a weight loss. So I've been doing like 5 days carnivore, 2 days high carb for sanity and to spike some of my hormone levels back up. Because if you're doing too low calorie, you'll a lot of times get stagnant,
Yeah.
uh, and so you want to spike your leptin levels, which leptin's a hormone, which will kind of kickstart your metabolism again and allow you to
Hmm.
weight. So yeah, but like if as soon as like my bicep is healed and I can go for building mass, I will go probably 5 days high carb and 2 days carnivore.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I'll flip flop it.
Okay. And then last question. So you've been working with this fancy mentor of yours that's got kind of crazy background, work with Oprah, et cetera, et cetera. Lots of cool people in the mastermind. What do you think is the most important thing you've learned from him?
Oh man, there are so many things. Honestly, one of the most important things is just clarity. Getting
What do you mean?
clear on your goals, your life goals, like what you want in life. Uh, Basically, start with the end in mind, right? You've seen the book Ready, Fire, Aim. I know that talks about it, but starting with the end in mind, I think is super important because in order to get to where you want to go, you need to know where that is.
Hmm.
So getting clarity on that, and clarity is something that is not easy to get, uh,
Yeah.
and it's a something that you should seek daily. And so one of the biggest things he's taught me was strategic thinking time. So every day you spend some time, whether it's 10 minutes a day, whether it's 30 minutes a day, whether it's an hour a day, uh, it just whatever it is you want to grow or you want to obtain, you spend like 10 minutes minimum on that problem. So you ask a question, spend 10 minutes on that problem. What will happen is the first time you do it, you'll purge out all of those surface level thoughts, right? And then once that's done, you get this um, your mind will be blank. You'll be like, I don't have anything left in it. But if you
Hmm.
just sit in that pocket for a while, all of a sudden new things will start to come up, and you'll be able to drive deeper into that. So, for instance, like if I'm like wanting to grow revenue in Life Boost, I'll be like, how do I grow revenue in Life Boost? And then I'll take 10 minutes a day and I'll just start writing ideas until I don't have any more ideas left. And then I
Hmm.
will sit there and stare and just think. And what will happen is that, like, maybe the second or third day, I'll start to get some other things pop up. And so I'll write those down and I'll just sit there and think. I mean, it can be brutal because you're like, I have nothing left, but there's always
Yeah.
something left. You can always dig deeper. So I think seeking that depth of clarity and just pushing through all the surface stuff that that your cluttered brain is filled with. I think that was one of the best things he's taught me. That's helped tremendously.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I found there's no substitute when you want to like improve something than daily attention.
Yeah,
It's like I don't know. It's like, some people are like, oh, check in on your progress weekly, monthly, whatever. I don't think it works. I mean, it maybe depends on the thing, but in my experience, like anything that like I've struggled to improve, whether it was like gaining weight or improving some aspect of business, obviously, you can't do this with like 20 things because you run out of time. But it's like, if there's like one thing you want to work on, it's like, to me, there's like no substitute than forcing yourself to like look at it every single day, 7 days a week, like without fail. Cause it's kind of like, your mind's going to be focused on something that's kind of forcing you to put attention on there, even on the times you're not working on it because you're like bouncing ideas, you're taking your dogs for a walk or whatever, and it's like stuff like that surfaces up because you've like forced yourself to put attention on it every day.
yeah, for sure. That's yeah, you nailed it. I think
Yeah.
that's super important. The other thing is just be open and ready to receive ideas. So
Hmm.
this is something that I don't know if anybody told it to me. It's just something that I try to. I'm always have my notepad on my phone. Like I cannot write. People say, "Oh, you need to have a notebook and write stuff down." I can't. I know you do that. I can't do that because I can't read anything that I
So
write.
writing stuff down here.
Yeah, I can't read my writing. That's
Because you're a
so,
doctor, that's why.
I know it's so bad that I can't read it. So I just type it in my notepad. And so, like, I've been doing this. Oh my gosh, I don't know. I know for Life Boost since 2019. Like, I keep a document open that is like my brain dump list or my what I call my strategic thinking, and then I'll just put the date down, and then anytime I get an idea, I'll just go in and I'll jot it down. Or like a website pops up, like that one you just sent me
Yeah.
about the upsell thing. So I wrote
Hmm.
that down in that document just so I wouldn't forget it. And I've got like I think every year I end up with like 50 plus pages full of just information of my thoughts and ideas.
And it
Uh,
just keeps running. You like never delete it or anything.
yeah, and no, well, I every year I create a new document, so
Oh,
I have them all linked in the next year's document. So
but
I
each day you would put something, you would just write a note, or the date, I mean.
yeah, I just put the date and I put a note, and so like yeah, on average I have about 50 plus pages. This year I think it'll be over 100 pages.
Is this just using the Apple Notes app or something different
I use Google Docs for this.
on your phone?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So the note I was using the notepad. I'll correct myself. I was using the notepad, but then like I mainly I'll do both, but mainly I'll use the Google Docs.
Yeah, it's a
Depending
lot
on
better for the computer.
yeah, it depends on how fast I can. Like sometimes like I come up with an idea and I like freak out because I'm afraid I'm going to forget it. So I'll pop open the notepad and I'll put it in there.
Yeah,
But if I can have a moment to like open up Google Docs, then I'll just do that.
yeah, cool. All right, well, thanks for doing this. We're about 50 something minutes in, and I'm sure you've got a million people pinging you over there. So thanks for doing this.
Ain't no problem, man.